It's a little time for intellectual anarchy. This is James Salazar. Welcome to Intellectual Anarchy, where we engage in extreme truth, extreme common sense, and diversity of ideas. So a lot has been being revealed through Elon Musk taking over Twitter about certain information that's been suppressed. Censoring of certain people, and they lied that it was part of an algorithm when it was actually left-wing people who worked at there pressuring the leadership of Twitter to do things that may not be in line with free speech in America, and which Twitter was a avenue, a place where you can express your feelings, and a place where you exercise free speech. Once these left-wing people started to pressure the people, it started to shut down dissent or different ideas, the lack of diversity of thought. And it made me start to wonder. And I'm wondering this: are Democrats truly democratic? And what started to lead me to this was something they were saying strangely during the election, towards the end of this new senators and new governors and new congressmen. The Democrats started to say, democracy is on the ballot. And I thought this was they're misspeaking. They don't mean what they're saying. They're trying to say, exercise your democracy by going to the ballot boxes. This is what I thought they were saying. But clearly it wasn't. They were saying that democracy is one of the choices on the ballot. And it wasn't a direct choice. It wasn't like an other choice. Check here for democracy. What they were saying was that if you don't vote in the way that we like, you are voting against democracy. Ironically, while exercising your democracy. See, I've always thought not democracy was on the ballot, but democracy was the ballot. So they clearly have a different definition that is very cleverly manipulated. Because they can't have you believe that your choice, if it differs from them, is valid. It's not. This is why they like to lump every Republican and conservative with Donald Trump to invalidate your vote. Just in case they did lose and they lost the House, but they're always going to discount it by saying you lost it because of your hatefulness. They're not taking the messages that they lost the House, barely lost the Senate, which they both had a majority by a lot. They're not taking the message. They're not taking the message sent to them by the people that more and more people are finding what they're doing good, acceptable, and they're losing their position. They lost the House, and they barely held on to the Senate. And why do you think they don't make that equation? Because they don't believe in traditional democracy, that the vote is telling something. They believe democracy is voting in the way that they think you should vote. So that's why they're going to go hard into the paint. Because they have already said there's only a certain way where democracy is valid. Only if you vote in the way that we like. This is why it's okay to suppress truth. This is okay to push out propaganda. The Democratic Party depends upon the ignorant voter. And we know this because of the school system. Thousands of minorities and even white people, white kids, are coming out with the inability to read or do math. Some are just completely dropping out of school. And it's not a concern for them because they feel that the position that the teachers have is more important than the kids actually learning. Not all teachers believe that, but that's how it's functionally run, whether you like it or not. When you have thousands of black kids not graduating, dropping out of high school, and if they do graduate high school, they're coming out with a very low reading and math test abilities. And they want to suppress the truth. We see this with a Twitter. They need for their form of democracy to work to have an ill-informed society. They can't have anything that comes out that will allow people in their minds to vote against the democracy on the ballot, which means what they want you to vote for. They don't believe, I truly don't believe they believe in democracy. This is why they got upset. This is why they feel the election was stolen. When the truth about Hillary Clinton came out, about her emails, and people just didn't like her, and Donald Trump had the heat, they blamed that coming out and Russian disinformation, which we know was to be true, blamed it on the president, which we know was not true. It's emphatically proven that President Trump had no quid pro quo or were the hand puppet of Russian and Putin. This was disinformation. They know that if you're educated, and there's some very unflattering things they have done recently that should inform you as a voter. They don't want you informed as a voter and making the clear choices based on all the information. They do not want that. And they don't believe in that. Because they would say take everything Donald Trump said and everything Joe Biden did and everything we've done and everything the Republicans done and make a choice for the Democrats because we're better. They're not saying that. Exercise your democracy. They're not saying exercise your democracy. They're saying democracy's on the ballot. And if you don't vote for what we like, you are not voting for democracy. Which undermines what democracy really is, voting the way you see fit. And this just totally adds to what our forefathers knew about democracy. It's super flawed. It can be convinced. You can convince people with the right kind of speaker and the right amount of fear to vote away their own rights. And therefore, we had to shrine these certain rights as a republic. That no group of people can have such an overwhelming majority power to vote their own rights away, as let alone other people's rights away. Democrats are all about democracy. They're originally about democracy. And if they don't like it, they succeed from it. If they don't like the laws, they try to succeed from it, and they've basically have not changed the way they look at it. That a democracy is to be used to push your agenda. We saw this when the anti-slavery party and people, the abolitionists, were saying these people have human rights. They have the same value as white people. And they would say, oh yeah, really? So, if you believe that, then why don't you make their vote? Why don't you make their vote worth something? And the abolitionists, you're just going to have black people vote the way you want them to, and voting for slavery. You will have the slaves vote for slavery because they're going to obey their master. Real shit. Hey everybody, it's James Salazar with James Salazar Media here. If I can just have a moment of your time to talk about some of my shows and some free things I have for you. First of all, on my YouTube channel, I have the Brightburn YouTube Academy, where we talk about mindsets and belief systems of what it means to be an entrepreneur. We also have the Intellectual Anarchy show, where we talk about politics, philosophy, and religion. I think they're inseparable from having a keen mind and intellect. We also have the James Salazar Media podcast, where we talk about pop culture, politics, and futurism. Some free things I have for you. I have the Brightburn Society Facebook group. Here you gather with like-minded people on the same journey you're on meeting your goal, fulfilling your dreams, and what it means to be an entrepreneur. I also have a free handout, an ebook called How to Be Great at Everything You Do Blueprint. And also, if you want me to come speak at your event, or you need some life coaching, you can find both these links in the James Salazar /sling address, or take a picture of my QR code, and we'll all link you to all this stuff. So thank you for your time and have a good day. So, are Democrats democratic? I think this version of them are not. And I don't know if they ever had that, because when they knew that they weren't going to win a vote to keep slavery, they wanted to succeed. That written in the Constitution was the demise of slavery. Written by people who had slaves. They wrote in the death of their society because they knew it was wrong, but not wrong enough to do anything about it. They should be looked back at as suspect as well. It's like humans. We're right. We're all about the things we've done wrong and all the things we've done right. And we're going to be judged by that. And they're judged by that. And we look at our country and we say, God, these guys did great things as well as held on to terrible things. But once they realized, which was a brilliant move on their part, to make the abolitionists concede that these people have equal rights when it comes to voting, then have their slaves vote against their own freedom, or they would get whipped or killed, which was a stroke of genius. The only recourse for the abolitionists was to say they don't have the same rights through the legal system to keep anti-slavery laws and bills to keep going. So they did this half, their worth only worth half was much, just enough to know that they would lose. The South would lose a vote keeping slavery the law of the land. So they succeeded, and then we went to war over slavery. They didn't believe in democracy. They only believe in democracy as long as you're going to vote their way. They haven't changed. They still believe democracy can be used to manipulate the masses to vote in the way that they see fit. And if you don't vote the way they see fit, you don't believe in democracy, because democracy is only voting the way I want you to, which is not democracy in a traditional sense. Democracy is whoever has the best argument, whoever people like the best, gets the most votes, and the votes tell you how the people are feeling. They want you to feel in one way. Feel positive towards them, and anything that is not towards them, you're not only against democracy, you're a bigot, you're a racist. They will demonize you to vote for them. They're not about ideas, they're about emotions. They will never appeal to your intellect. They will always appeal to your emotions. Because if they can get you scared, angry, upset, then they can get you to vote in the way that they like. And Republicans are not above it. Even conservatives are not above it. Republicans are about laws, and they're always going to back up their laws. They are intellectually consistent. They will always want you to obey the law and value freedom above all. And yes, they use manipulative tactics sometimes to do that. They will appeal to your fear of the other sometimes to do that. But the difference is that Democrats, they say they're for democracy, when they're truly not. They're not consistent with their name. They should be, but they're not. They will suppress the truth. They will hold it back. They will censor people. And they will demonize you and make you believe something as outrageous as democracy is on the ballot while you are exercising your democracy if you chose something other than the way they want. They're saying you're not for democracy unless you vote the way I want you to. Well, that's not democracy. That's totalitarianism disguised as democracy. That is fascism disguised as democracy. Yeah, you can vote. It's a free country. But you better vote the way I want you to. Makes no sense, right? So that's the question I posed to you today. Are Democrats truly democratic? I think this version of them, they're not. This is James Salazar signing out of the Intellectual Anarchy.